welcome in. My name is Tetter. Today we're here in Gamemaker Studios 2, believe it or not. This is a little project that I've been working on. It's a fully modifiable 3D world inside of Gamemaker Studios with about 120 by 120 chunk size, 16 by 16 blocks in a chunk. It's running at about 60 frames per second right now with a few dips here and there, but this is actually last week's project. What I'm going to be doing today is showing you the optimizations I've implemented in the last week. If you even wanted to call them that, they're mostly compromisations on code and how much RAM I can use. Because look, if you see right now, we're running at about 10 gigabytes of RAM, not really socially appropriate for the modern day and age. So I did a few optimizations, cut that in half, but there are future updates where I think I can get it pretty darn small. Alrighty, so a basic overview of what I optimized. Let's say that this is the world. It is 128 by 128. This used to all get loaded into RAM, every single last bit of it. So now we're loading in at about a 40 chunk radius around the player. This is all still allocated in RAM. It just currently doesn't have the object in it, which is honestly one of the most unoptimized things in the game engine that I need to change, but it's a core thing. So right now I'm storing structs. I'm storing a struct as the object inside of these arrays that I'm creating. And don't say use grids, don't say use maps. I've literally done the test performances and I've looked into it. Buffers, grids, any of those are not as fast as an array. The fastest thing in Gamemaker is an array. It's just the slowest to make and the slowest to destroy. So you have to recycle what you have, and currently I'm not implementing that, but I need to. So these structs have like functions in them and stuff for like step, and it just builds up. So I'm running about 10 gigabytes whenever it's all loaded, and about 4 to 5 gigabytes whenever I'm running it with this half load inside of there where it's still allocating. So the allocation of memory is taking up not that much. The actual terrain map, the height map, which is just integers, takes up about 700 megabytes. So that'd be terrain map. That means most of this data is actually just coming from the block struct, which is horribly optimized, so I needed to decentralize that and make it just an integer array so it's about the same 700 megabytes as the terrain, and then I can just use calls to get the information for these block types and make separate lists that will have the updating functions inside of them. So I'm going to go ahead and load up RAM test 2. This one loads in about 50 seconds compared to about the 7 minutes and 30 seconds it takes to generate all of that data into RAM. As I said, it's a lot faster than the first test, but it doesn't look as good because now we have to use deterministic random functions, and that's actually a really cool thing I can show you while it's starting up. So there's no hash mapping inside of Gamemaker, but you can use a little cheeky line like this, which is just multiplying prime numbers by the world seed in your X and Y coordination to give you a pseudo-random number that also functions kind of as a hashing, because no matter what you put in the same thing, it's going to give you that same output, which was very necessary if I was going to randomly generate not all in one succession, but at different times. Yeah, it doesn't look as good, and we're having a lot of frame dips. You can see it over there. It will dip down. It doesn't go below 30 frames per second, but as you can see, the render distance nowhere near as far as the first one. We are getting a little bit of stuttering, but this is natural. I feel like whenever I take down the frames per second and all the RAM from the changing the block data types, we will have a lot more that we can load in. Currently, one of the biggest bottlenecks is loading in the new terrain. It loads in 2 per frame and deletes 1. Pretty good system. That's as fast as I can go without dipping down insane amounts. Gamemaker only runs on one CPU core, so any amount of RAM that I take away from Gamemaker is just going to be CPU load that gets added. So let's just go over the old versus the new, because in optimization there is really no right or wrong. There is just a gray in between on what you want to run your software. The old one would load in at 7 minutes, 60 to 90 frames per second, absolutely no stutter and huge render distance. It just runs at 10 gigabytes. 10 gigabytes, don't think I can get away with that. So we also have the new one. Takes 50 seconds to load, way better. That's like Minecraft speeds, whatever. 60 to 90 frames per second if you're not moving chunks, 4 gigabytes of RAM, so that's already cut in half, and that's why I'm fairly confident I can get it down to 1,200 to 1,500 megabytes. Huge frame drops, which I can probably mitigate by making my code a little bit better. That would be the vertex buffer creation code, which has a lot of overhang. I might even just go ahead and use like arrays or something if I can draw points to the screen and triangles. So all in all, the key changes are we're no longer loading everything into RAM, we're still allocating that spot for it, but we're not putting anything in it. Chunk loading and destruction is being handled by the engine. That way we don't run up these insane rackets of 10 gigabytes. We're staying about the same amount no matter where we are, give or take the amount of data being generated for the actual maps that aren't the vertex buffers that get destroyed and created. Still allocating with arrays, pretty good. We need to get around to the point where we're shifting and recycling it. And deterministic random, all of these changes were having to be made, and there's still a lot of changes that need to be made, and we'll delve into that next week whenever I finally get everything as integers and not just structs. So make sure to keep around, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you then.